Welcome back, guys. Another episode of the Hawk Vision podcast. I am your host, Chuck Hawkins, here to help you shorten the learning curve. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe across all of your social media platforms, especially here at YouTube. We have a lot of strong content coming that the hustler and the visionary in you will not want to miss. Now, we can't talk about accelerating your growth without accelerating your mindset. And this week's guest is one of the sharpest minds in the game globally. I'm going to say it globally. As an entrepreneur, dream chaser, and high achiever, she's been seen on Entrepreneur Magazine, GQ, Forbes, Ebony Experts, Huffington Post. The list is unbelievable and never ending. Now, she says she's a millennial expert. I would humbly add that there is not a soul that comes into contact with her that does not leave feeling 10 feet tall and bulletproof, guys. She has tens of thousands of people following her across her social media platforms. And most importantly, she is creating a living resume of success with everyone that she coaches and mentors. True visionary, someone whose work ethic is unmatched. And she's the founder of AAE, Amber Aziza Enterprises, and a few other companies as well. Amber, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I need to have you come on the road with me and introduce me everywhere.
Listen, we've been following each other for so long. I'm
Yes.
looking at the accolades and I'm like, yep, that's true. Yep, that's true. You've been killing it. Thank you so much for carving out some time.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, before we do all the nuggets and the gems and all that good stuff, we were just chatting. I need you to tell the story. How does somebody go from you'll be our third international guest, but how does somebody go from Ohio and Nashville to London? Like, how does that even happen?
Oh, so the short version is I was able to build my company into having international clients. In about 2017, I decided I was living in DC and I had, was running the business. It was successful. It was a seven-figure year business, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't tapped into that happiness that everybody seems to be talking about.
Yeah.
And so I made the mistake of reading Eat, Pray, Love. And I was like, I need an Eat, Pray, Love journey. Like, this is what I need. I need this. And
Right.
so I did. I put all of my things in storage and said, I'm going to be a nomad for 6 months. And it was probably the best thing I've ever done because not only was I able to find myself and discover myself, but I was also able to make connections and learn kind of from a global point of view what needs clients that we have in the States would have if they were overseas. And so in that, it really gave me insight to say like, hey, we have solutions for these problems. And being able to kind of collect awesome clients that were international. So now we have clients in Thailand and in the UK and in Canada. We have clients in Mexico. We've got clients in South Korea, in China. So it's been a really eye-opening experience for me to take that time to what I thought was finding myself, which I did, but also help the business.
That is absolutely awesome. And for you to say that it's one of the best things you've ever done when that list is like ridiculously long, that's huge. And I love it because I haven't left the country, obviously with COVID and all that good stuff, but we've grown the podcast to additional 24, 34 countries, somewhere around in there. And
Wow.
yeah, it's been really good. And now I'm sitting at the feet of the great one. And so I have all the questions. Let's dive right in. Your speaker's masterclass.
Mhm.
I have a two-part question for this one. First, why did you decide to create this offering in this lane? And then
Mhm.
second, how are you able to teach people how to develop that skill when most people are petrified of public speaking?
Ooh, so I created it because I felt there was a gap, specifically for Black and Brown speakers who were wanting to take the stages, but were being told, we'll pay you an exposure, or, oh, well, it's an audience of 500 people. So, you can show up and then maybe you can sell back a room. Whereas their, white counterparts are getting paid thousands of dollars to be on those stages. They're getting paid in book deals on the back end of you buy, 2,000 of my books and then I'll come and speak. And so I realized very quickly that there was game being run that wasn't being taught to us. And so once I learned the game, I was like, okay, now I got to teach it to everybody I know. And
Right.
so, we've been able to help hundreds of speakers grow their platforms and to be paid what they're worth when they step on that stage, regardless of where they are in their career. And I'm so proud of our little program, Five Figure Speech Academy, because it's really been able to do that. But, I would say, how do I help people when most people are petrified? I think that's like the number one or number two most, feared element of Americans is speaking on a
Absolutely.
stage publicly.
Yeah, now I love it, of course, but everybody else is like, I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk.
Right. So I think, the big piece that I like to address with folks is everyone has a story and every story has an audience.
Yes.
And if you are a skilled speaker or not a skilled speaker, the reality is that what you know, what you've experienced can help someone else. And so when you frame it in that manner of, when you were going through your own fire, wouldn't you have loved to have somebody else who had been through the fire walking beside you and telling you how to do it? Be that person for the next people coming up. And that usually kind of melts away a lot of the fear. Of course, you're still gonna have the nervousness, but the fear of it tends to melt away because you're the expert. You have that mic in your hand and they're there to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. My daddy used to tell me everybody has a story to tell. You just have to earn the right to tell it. And
Mm,
so it's kind of along those same lines. Like there's a reason that people want to hear from you, and if you've put yourself in the conversation for people to ask you to speak, there has to be some value there. We gotta tap into it.
absolutely.
Love it, love it. Now we always hear people talk about entrepreneurship as the way to make as much money as they want to make and have this freedom of choice in their lives. But there's this flip side. Can you talk about what it takes in terms of consistency, dedication, and time management to be a business owner?
Yeah, if you don't want doing things that you don't like doing, like if you are going through your life and you're like, I don't want to do anything that I don't want to do, entrepreneurship probably isn't going to be for you. There are going to be plenty of things that you have to do that you don't want to do. Like I don't want to file my taxes, but I have to. Uncle Sam
Yeah,
says I have to, right? Um, but I think that if you go into it thinking I'm just going to make as much money as possible and that's my goal, then you're really missing an opportunity. It's not to say that that's wrong, but you're missing an opportunity to improve yourself as a human. Being an entrepreneur, every entrepreneur I know, who they were when they started versus who they were now and who they are, as a successful entrepreneur is totally different. And you improve on so many levels. You become a better leader. You become a better thinker. You start to deduce things a lot faster. You become wittier. If my friends always say like, "Oh, Amber, you are so on your feet and witty. Like you are really quick with those kind of snapbacks and quick comebacks." And a lot of that comes from having to be quick on my feet when it comes to business. Like you can't take 10 weeks to figure something out. You have to figure it out now. When I became an entrepreneur and started realizing all of the things that I needed to do, all the things that I was going to have to take over, and all the things I was going to be responsible for, I called my former employers and was like, I get it now. I get it now. Like because
right,
I
right.
I worked for a husband and wife and they had a small company. We had 200 employees. They brought me in as their training director and I
Okay.
had never directed a training department before. They were like, here, come build our training department. And I created this beautiful proposal and was like, this is what I'm going to do. I had no idea what I was jumping into. And
Right.
they would change things so quickly. So it'd be like, okay, on Monday, we're trying to prioritize new hire training. On Tuesday, nope, now management training is the priority. On Wednesday, nope, now it's fraud training. It was just like, oh. But as an entrepreneur, I look back and I see it and I'm like, thank you. You really prepped me for having to be able to make those quick shift turns
Yes.
to be a better person and be a better entrepreneur. Otherwise, my business wouldn't have survived. So I
Right.
think if you go in thinking, I just want to make as much money, but not think I want to impact lots of people's lives or I want to provide something that wasn't there when I needed it. If you go into it thinking it's just the money, you're going into it robbing yourself of a true, beautiful experience, which is building a business that serves others.
So I love that answer, but the East Oakland in me always has the we building this for some money, right? Like we
Absolutely. And
we
that's not to say that, you're building a business just to serve others. It's
right, right.
definitely, but if you're only going into it thinking, I only want to make money, that is only my mindset. You're going into it with a drug dealer's mindset, right? I'm only in it to get cash. I don't care what the impact is. I'm only in it to get money, right? Like I got bills to
Yes.
pay, bills need to be paid. The reality is that a business is made to make money, right? Like
Yes, absolutely.
I wouldn't have an 8-figure business if my goal wasn't at some point that we need to make money, right?
Yeah.
But understanding on a deeper level of what's the impact and imprint that my business is going to make
Right.
allows you, I think it actually allowed me to scale the business financially far easier because
Really?
once I was able to tap into like, this is the impact we're making, these are the things that we're doing, this is the legacy it's building, not just for me, but for my family. When I was able to tap into that,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, like endless. Like then I realized my money could make more money for me. And I was like, oh, like,
Yes.
okay. But that
Yes.
doesn't come from just coming and saying it's about the money. It
Right.
comes from understanding on a greater scale what that money does and what that money creates for you and your family, and then what your services or products create for the people you sell it to.
Absolutely agree. So I can be half ghost and half Eric Thomas, right? Is that
Yes.
I could be a little bit of both. But the reason that I say that is because of course we do it for the money, right? We get into the business because we want our time freedom. We want to do kind of what we're great at, or what we love doing, our passion, all that good stuff. But the flip side is it's very hard to build when you're broke, right? It's very hard to build when your back is against the wall. And so to that point, you and I have a story that you don't know about that we both have in common, right? And so I'm gonna tee it up. You tell me. Well, we'll just go in. So back in the day, I was at the top of the world. Like I bought this house, amazing neighborhood. Even though my mentor said not to buy it, everything was going well until it wasn't. Right? Because of course, when you're young and you're making all the money, what do? You spend all of the
Mhm.
money, and we ultimately lost the house. And you have um, that sort of, I don't want to say eviction, foreclosure like that, but what did that do to your commitment to yourself, like going through that loss that you
Mhm.
experienced as well? What did that do to your commitment?
For me, it wasn't a foreclosure, but it was definitely an eviction of like a pending eviction. Like, sis, you owe
Okay.
us money and we gonna kick you out. And I've played the hide the car from the repossession guy game.
Yes.
I know all the tips. I probably make 7 figures just from teaching people
Right,
how to.
that's another training, right?
And so, but you know what it did for me? It made me a value my money. It made me really realize like you got to make some changes in your life. But B, it also made me realize that there's doing things because you need to do them and you can do them, and doing things because you're trying to front for other people. And it was like the reality was I had this big expensive apartment, but at the time I was building my business. I had quit my job in an uproar, like I'm gone, and did not have a plan B, and was living in this expensive apartment thinking that my business was going to just make money like next month,
Right.
and so I couldn't mentally and emotionally part from the apartment because it was like, well, I'm known for having this gorgeous luxury apartment and having this gorgeous, amazing car. Like, if I let that go, who am I? And
Right.
so it taught me to kind of unravel my identity from what I have and what people know me as, and to really focus on what I needed. But I think it also was a catalyst for me to go into hustle and grind mode. And people will tell you, I don't encourage hustle and grind once you're in cruise control. Like, you should not live your entire life in hustle and grind. The only people that need to do that are pimps and drug dealers, and that's just it. Like, that's just
Right.
reality, right?
Right.
But you need to live in flow where everything is flowing in your business, but be willing to step in hustle and grind when you need to. And so for me, it really shifted my relationship with money, because I was like, I need to be grinding. Like, it's not coming as easy to me as it was when I was in corporate, like that every bi-weekly check coming through,
Right. Yes.
like, I'm gonna just
Yes.
go and cash it and get what I need to get. Like, no big deal. It's not coming as easily as it was, because no one's just writing me a check every other week. I got to go out there and make sales. I got to go out there and get clients. And that was new to me. And in that, struggle, in that, I finally did let go of the apartment and let go of the car. I didn't let go of the car. They repossessed it. They
She
got
said, I
me.
didn't.
That's
Look, let me tell the truth. They came and got it. That's
they
so
got
funny.
me. But in that, it really did make me realize, like, okay, you're still living and breathing after this. Like, this wasn't the worst thing that could have happened to you. And honestly, it was probably one of the better things, because had I been struggling to try to pay that much money each month while building a business, my business would have never been able to take off.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like we said, you can't build with your back against the wall. And I think that the difference there is that you decided to keep going even through all of that, versus most people will say, you know what, let me just get this job for another 6 months, and then I'll
Mm-hmm.
save up, and that 6 months turns into 3 years, and that 3 years turns into your retirement party,
Right,
you know.
right. Because it's habits, right? So I had a disposable income, and I was very disposable of it. So I was making six figures a year in my early 20s, and saving, what's that? Like, oh,
Yes.
why do I need to save? I'm going to get another check in 2 weeks. So,
Yes.
it really forced me to realize, like, you've got some bad habits with money, and it doesn't come as easily when, you're having to build it yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the one thing that entrepreneurs don't get is we get mindset, right? There's a million other platforms where we talk about mindset, and we get training on funnels and things like that. But that relationship with money, that deep relationship with money in terms of habits and how you treat it, and the relationship you have with it, I think that there is so much more that we need to do. Especially for our genre, the people that are following us, because I tell you, I had going through all that, you do um that audit, right? That self audit, like, where's my money going? And me and my coffee, your boy was spending 250, $300 a month on coffee, and had the coffee maker at home, but it was just, I was never home, right? Like,
Right.
and we have these habits that I think we just don't realize, that $10, $20, that
Hmm.
eating out every day, even the prepping, like, if you don't find the right service, we can run through money that we could be using to help reinvest in our business. So I just want you to know, you were not alone in telling the people with the car, I don't even want that car no more anyway.
Right. Take it.
Yeah, I was
It's an
gonna get
older
another one
model
anyway.
anyway.
Exactly, exactly. Um, to that point, though, let me ask you this: what are your thoughts on imposter syndrome? That's like one of the biggest buzzwords out right now. It's a real thing,
It
but
is.
what are your
It
thoughts on
is. I think sometimes imposter syndrome is correct. Sometimes imposter syndrome is telling you are legit being an imposter. And you have to decipher and use your discernment to determine if that's accurate.
it?
So have you put in the time, the hours to dedicate towards building whatever it is that you're saying you're an expert in? Have you really done what you needed to do to become a genuine expert in it? Could you talk about this topic? I tell my speakers all the time, could you stand and talk about the topic that you're trying to sell? Could you talk about it for 24 hours
Yes.
straight? Could you give me 24 hours worth of content on it? If you can't give me
Ooh,
24 hours worth of content on it, I'm not going to deem you an expert. And so they'll be like, wait, Amber, what? And I'm like, listen, like, if you're a parent, you could take 24 hours and cover a different topic in each hour of being a
yes,
parent, and that
yes.
would deem you an expert, right? So it's the same thing with any other topic.
Right.
And so when imposter syndrome kicks in, I tell people, don't be so quick to try to dismiss it as it's just imposter syndrome. Like, I'll get over this. I just need to push through and believe in myself. Believing in yourself doesn't mean anything if you're truly not an expert. Believing in yourself
Mm,
doesn't mean anything if you truly aren't skilled in what service or product that you're providing.
Yes.
So, the believing in yourself is important, absolutely. But sometimes you have to do a real gut check of, is it kicking in because I genuinely am like
An imposter.
being an imposter, or is it kicking in because I have this feeling of inadequacy and this feeling of like, who am I to tell them? If it's a who am I versus like, I haven't put in the hours, those are two different types of conversations and two different types of feelings. So
Okay.
tap into which feeling that is, and then you'll know what your answer is.
I love it. So I gotta piggyback on that one, because let's go, because we know what a fraud is, right? Those people get
Mm-hmm.
exposed. The industry will expose you,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of which one it is. It will expose you as a fraud. But when it's the inadequacy, because let's say you have paying clients, let's say you're building to the 5-figure mark, right? But they say that
Mm-hmm.
first 6 figures is the hardest, right? And then from 6 to 7, there's a couple more hurdles. But let's say you're 5-figure, and you're doing good, you feeling yourself, but then you get in that room with the real, the Amber Azizas, right? You get in that room and you're like, how did I get in here? Oh my God, I'm not good. Like, what does that part look like? How do you work through that?
So you have to understand there are levels, and that, every level of expertise, there's levels within it. So I am not at the same level of expertise for diversity, equity, and inclusion uh, as I was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I would have still told you, like, yeah, I'm an expert. I know what I'm talking about. But those extra 3 years of experience have proved to me, okay, there were some things I didn't know, some things I needed to learn myself. Okay, I get it.
Yes.
So there are levels to it. And just because you're not where someone else is, it doesn't mean that you aren't an expert in what you know. You're an expert in the things that you know and the experiences that you've had. So you may be, say, for example, you may be an entrepreneur and you may be on a panel with someone who's like me, who's been in the game for a decade. And my experiences and my advice is going to be totally different
Right.
because I compare it to if you're living in a high rise building
Okay.
and if you are starting out your journey, you're on the ground floor. And as you progress throughout your journey, you go up floors, which
Right.
means you can see a lot more. So from my 35th floor, I can tell you how to get from here to there because I can
Right.
see it. I can tell you exactly, no, make a left. No, 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 a left from where you are. Keep no, keep going,
Yes.
keep going. But if I'm on the first floor, I can't see other than the building across from me. But I can
Hmm.
tell you where to park.
I
I can,
love it.
I
I
can
love
tell
it.
you which parking spots are going to be best. And as you progress up those floors, as you get more experience, your expertise then matches the floor that you're on. And then you start to see more and be able to help more people from the scope of where you are. But just because you're on the ground floor doesn't negate your experience. It doesn't mean that what you're an expert in doesn't mean that parking ain't important. Parking's the most important. Like,
Yes. Otherwise, they'll come
anybody,
get your car.
they will come get your car, right? So, it's the levels of it and just understanding what floor are you on and not trying to just immediately hop in the elevator and hit penthouse because you want to be up there with the big dogs. That takes years of experience. I'm not even at the penthouse. I don't even think that my mentors who I deem at the penthouse would say they're at the penthouse because
Wow.
they learn more as they go along.
That leads me so much perfectly, so perfectly. See, this I'm gonna have to roll in the speakers thing because I that part just that transition was trash. But the other day, you said that you had. I was watching one of your lives, and you said that you have sometimes trouble asking for help, and I always tell people that if you're a giver, you have to set limits because takers don't have it.
Hmm.
Um, why do you think high achievers sometimes struggle to ask for help?
I think it's a combination of things. Ooh, this whole podcast is like Amber says the complete opposite of what everyone else will say to this to these answers. Um, so I think it's a combination of things. Honestly, I think it's a slight hint of arrogance that you can't help me. I mean,
Right.
honestly, I've thought that when someone says, "How can I help?" I've genuinely thought, with what? Like carrying my bag upstairs? Like, what are you gonna help me with?
Oh my
Like,
God, I love it. I love it.
so like, there's a hint of arrogance in us high achievers who think we've got it all together. But I think also the bigger piece is we don't even know what we need help with. We can't even articulate what the problem fully is. We may be able to tell you the symptoms, but we can't necessarily always tell you the problem because we're too close to it. We're too close to
Ooh,
it and we can't necessarily see what the issue is. I can't usually tell someone what I need help with until I go to a therapy session. And then she points out all of these things. And it's like, oh, that is the problem. Okay. And
yes.
now I know how somebody can help me. Okay. So, girl, here's what I need help with.
Is that
you
offer
know,
still open? Yes.
right. Exactly. So, sometimes we're just too close to it and we can't articulate it. So we say, we're fine. I'm okay. No, I don't need help, because we're so close to it that we can't even understand how anyone could come in and save this. And then we also have to look at the fact that, you know, the higher achieving you are, the more complex your problems are. So it may not be
Yes.
necessarily a thought of, oh, what are you going to do? But it may be a thought of like, you genuinely aren't in a place where you can help me with where I'm at. Like, I can vent to you, but any solution you give me is probably not going to logically work for where I'm at right now.
Right.
And that's something I hit myself probably 3 or 4 years ago. I kind of started sailing up those floors past my friends. And so
Yes.
when they'd be like, oh girl, what's going on? And I tell them, and they'd try to come up with solutions. And I would just sit there like, thank you, girl. But then literally walk away like, that's not that,
It's not gonna help.
like like you just gave a very simplified answer to a very complex issue. that
Yes.
but because you haven't experienced it, you don't necessarily know, right?
Yeah.
um and then other times I would say that, the fourth piece of that is that we sometimes feel like, and this is especially amongst us Black entrepreneurs, we sometimes get this feeling that we're supposed to struggle in order to win.
Woo. Okay. Here we go. Let's
And
yes.
it's a subconscious thing, right? Where it's
Yes.
like, if you look at any big entrepreneur, in the Black and brown space, their battle cry is the struggle they went through. Their battle cry, even me, the battle cry is the struggles we went through.
Yes.
And part of that is marketing. Part of that is, letting people know I made it so you can too. But another big piece of that is we sometimes stay in that mindset of like, oh, I need to be struggling because otherwise, if everything's easy, then what? Like,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
wrong? I had a girlfriend of mine message me the other day and she said, Amber, my team does everything and I'm only working like 2 hours a day. And I don't know what's wrong with me. I just can't, I don't know. I feel like something's wrong.
Yes.
And I was like, girl, no, everything's right. But we've been conditioned that we should be
Oh
working
my
really hard.
God.
We've been conditioned that something has to be wrong. So when we
Right.
get to the point we're trying to get to, we're like, what am I supposed to
Right.
do now?
Oh my God. That is huge. That's huge. And I think that it, it's part of that, especially for us, it's part of that being on guard. Like, who's gonna take
Mhm.
this from me?
Exactly.
Who's gonna steal this vision that I have, this dream that I've been putting so much into? So like, what am I missing? I'm missing something
Mhm.
because it can't be this easy. Like, we didn't just
Exactly.
put in 6, 7 years, to get here.
Right. Exactly. It's
Wow.
definitely a matter of that feeling of, a level of imposter syndrome, or a level of, okay, I'm here, so who's going to try to take it? Who's like, what's the problem now? Like, what's the next problem I'm supposed to tackle? And it's like sometimes there's just not a problem. Like sometimes it's just things are going well, and you need to revel in that.
Oh my God. It's like, and I have a couple of friends, and every once in a while they'll say, you know, we haven't, they'll talk about their spouses or their girlfriends or something. They're like, we haven't argued in months, man. And I'm just waiting. I'm like, why are you waiting? Like, just
Right.
take note of what you've been doing and keep doing it.
Right.
Like,
This sounds like a
just
horror film. Like, I'm just waiting
exactly.
for the other shoe to drop. What?
That
Why?
is so funny. It's crazy. It's crazy. Um, not too long ago, I was asked why there's such a push or such an awareness by millennials to create and to launch and work for themselves, almost like the entire generation, at least perception wise, is anti 9 to 5. Where do you think that comes from? Or is it even, am I right in saying that, that that's the perception? Where do you think that comes from?
So I think, yes, that is definitely a perception that is associated with us millennials. And I think there's a level of accuracy to it, but I don't think it's a new concept of being anti 9 to 5. I just think we're the first generation that really had the ability and the resources to do something about that feeling of, I don't want to do a 9 to 5. But I think the biggest factor are baby boomers. When we look at our parents and we see that, they worked 20, 30 years for a company that laid them off like at the drop of a hat because financially it was convenient. It was like, wait, these businesses ain't loyal. Like these companies are not out here, trying to make great environments for
Right.
their employees. And so when that shift happened, because it used to be 50s, 60s, it used to be where companies looked at their employees like family, right? And it was like,
Right.
oh, we've
Right.
given you great benefits. We understand your kid is sick. We're giving you a great pension. We're giving you all these things. And then it shifted. It shifted from not to be grateful you even have a job. Be grateful I'm even giving you a penny. Be
Yes.
grateful I'm even, and it's like, wait a minute, no, I'm working and you're paying me. This is an
Right.
exchange.
It's a trade. Yeah.
And right. And once I think the blinders were off of millennials, and I would even say, Gen Xers don't get enough credit. I would say Gen Xers are really the first ones to kick down the door of entrepreneurship and say, we're here and we're just going to do things our way.
Right.
And then millennials were like, trampled them as they ran through the door. But I think that, that feeling came from a level of distrust in organizations, a level of, at any given moment, you could let me go. And I could put all my years into this. I could put all my time into this. And then also the thought of there's so much more accessibility to those who have built businesses now. We are more connected than we ever
Yes.
have been. And
Yes.
so if I can see that Chuck is doing this and I can see that he's building this, whereas before I may not have been able to see it. You could have been doing it, but I didn't
Right.
see it. And so it was like, oh, he built a business. That's so cool. I could never build a business. But now I can literally see a hour by hour play of someone's day and what they did and who
Right.
they talked to and who they met with and what they built and what system they use. And now they have a class on how to do that. The just the availability of information has changed, which has allowed us to really build a lot
Yes.
faster and a lot easier.
Wow. Wow. I could talk to you, but I just, this is a therapy session for me because I think that there's, we used to talk back and forth. I don't even know if you remember this. We used to talk back and forth on Twitter
Yes,
years, right? Like,
I
and
forced you to join Instagram.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. And so the crazy part about that is like people always ask me, Chuck, how do you get these guests on your show? Like, how do you? And I'm like, y'all don't understand. Like, these are connections that we built when we were all broke, right?
Right.
We were all like crying and on Twitter venting. And back then, I think Twitter was so special for me back then because it was a way to even the playing field, right? Like you said, we could
Mhm.
see other people, and we would have these, back when I was doing Hustle Harder, we would have these conversations about, hey, let's do this. We should work together and do this. How do you do that? And we would have all those conversations. And now with the advent of Instagram, thank you for getting me on there. Oh, I fought that. I fought
You
that, but
did.
I fought that. Ooh, I did not know what I didn't know. Um, but with the advent of Instagram, to your point, we can see everything that we can kind of put the puzzle pieces together. But I think there's always that disconnect between you see so much, but now which part do I need?
Mhm.
Right. And so
Mhm.
that's one of the things that I struggle with is even on this podcast, I love every guest that I've had has dropped amazing gems. But now I have all these business ideas in my head outside of the ones that we've run. Out of all your streams of income, does Amber
Mhm.
have a favorite?
Ooh, that's like telling me to pick a favorite child. I mean, I know I'm my parents' favorite, but
But you can't tell your brothers.
I can't tell my brothers and sisters that. That's no,
That's
they
so
know I'm
funny.
my favorite. I would say it would be a tie between my speaking.
Okay.
I love speaking. I love speaking because it lets me impact more people at one time. And I
Yes.
really enjoy that. And then I would say second would be AE Corporation, which is our consulting arm that does a lot of HR and D&I consulting for corporations around the world. I love that because the work we do impacts the employees there.
Yes.
The people who don't have a choice about who's hired as diversity, executive that has no
Yeah.
experience. And it's like, you just hired this random person because they were brown. Why did you do that?
Because
And
they
so
were
like,
brown.
right. So we come in and we're able to help, salvage a situation that, could go really left for the employees. We go in and help support them through, their own struggles and their own issues with the organization and help the organization pivot their company culture. And so I really, really enjoy the work that we do there.
What are the three basic things? And I know this sounds like a cliche question, but what are the three things that you have to have functionally in terms of infrastructure for all three businesses, or for the two that you mentioned, right, that make them part of your favorite?
Mm, that's a good question. I would say, the first thing you need to have is you need to understand what it is you offer and the impact it makes. So, what is your unique value proposition? I think understanding that for us allows us to not just market it better, but it allows us to make sure that what we're offering truly is meeting the goal of what we would set out to do.
Okay.
Second, systems. I am a systems queen. I love a good system. Everything has to be, and when I say systems, I mean like software and processes,
Yes.
because it's absolutely imperative that you have that set up. If you're going in willy nilly, just thinking I'm a, fire ready aim, it doesn't work like that anymore.
Fire
Like
ready, eh?
it just does not work like that anymore.
Yes.
So you got to have, a full blown process of how you do things and your systems in place. And then third, I would say, the biggest piece that makes me love those businesses and makes it so easy for me to love them is my team. I would have gotten in trouble if I didn't say that. It would
That's
have
so
been
funny.
like,
I was
they
about
would
to
have
say, yeah,
passed it
HR
around.
inclusion, you got to say the team.
They would have passed it around the Slack messages like she didn't even say us. But I love my team. They're amazing. They work really, really hard. They take such autonomy in their roles. Every single person from our, executive EAs to our virtual assistants, to our project managers, to our directors, to our executive team, they all take, our consultants, they all take full ownership of what they do. And they look at it as their own little, this is my own little piece of business that I have to be in charge of and I have to be responsible for.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing, and I love having a team that can support me in building out my dream, because they don't have to. That's the
Yeah.
reality. They don't have
Yeah.
to do that. They could go out and start their own business with as much as they know now.
Right, right. Retention is key. Retention is
Right,
key.
exactly.
Wow. Wow. Have you looked at your career so far, all the people that you've helped, all the accolades, and thought about the Amber Aziza legacy?
You know, I always tell people like, oh, I'm building a legacy, I'm building a legacy. And I don't think I ever really thought about the impact that through the span of my career I've made
Yeah.
until I went to my former employer uh, about a year ago. I went and had lunch with one of the owners, and she brought me back to their new office, and she was giving me a tour, and she was like, "This is our training center. Like, we use the exact same layout that you told us to build." And like, she's like, "This is what it is." And the training director had walked over, and I was just like, "Gosh, he looks so familiar." And he was like, I was in your first training class and they were going to fire me because I failed the test, and you told them no, like, we just need to redo the
Oh,
test, we need to change the test because clearly the test isn't working because he knows his stuff. And now I'm the training director. And I was just like, oh, like 10 years later, like, oh.
that's
But
so funny.
it was just such a neat way to see, like, I put up a fight for them because they were ready. They were like, okay, go. Like, no, like everybody who failed that test, let them go. And I was just like, if we're failing the whole class, this isn't working.
Right. Right.
It's
That says more
wrong.
about the test than the class.
Right.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, seeing that impact really made me kind of reflect on what are all the other people that, I may have impacted, whether it was in my career or whether it was in my businesses. where are they? What have they done? And, I did do some digging and looking up folks, and, and they've all done really well. So that's good.
Wow. Wow. That's strong. I had a conversation with, Amber, right? Talk to Amber.
Hmm. Hmm.
We had a conversation and she, kind of alluded to the being so involved with building the legacy that you don't take the time to recognize it. Like her communication skills are ridiculous.
They're
She is,
amazing.
oh my God, she's somebody that I just want to listen to her talk so that I can think about ways to speak better, right? Like
Yes.
she's amazing. But to that, she says, sometimes we're so busy in it that we don't take the time to realize that our legacy is yesterday. Our legacy
Hmm.
is tomorrow. Like it's literally every step that we make. Um, what keeps Amber going? I know there's days, right, where you wake up and you're like, I ain't doing none of this. I'm not gonna do a call. I'm not stretching nothing. Want to teach nobody. What keeps you going besides the responsibility?
You know, I feel like the biggest thing that keeps me going, besides just the fact that like we're a whole ecosystem now, if I stop, like people will literally not have work.
Yeah,
But I think that other than that, what keeps me going is just the fact that I want to be able to have children who are those spoiled rich kids. I mean, I'm gonna be real about it,
I
right?
love it. I love
Like,
it.
I want to have those kids that, I want them to have, some grounding, of course. But
Of
like at the
course.
end of the day, I want them to be able to go to the neighborhood I grew up in and people be like, yo, those spoiled kids. Nah, like
Yes.
you're not from around
Yes.
here. I want that.
Yes.
And I want it because I didn't get to have that, right?
Yeah.
My parents busted their behinds to afford me private school. They worked extra overtime, to
Right.
let me join the school play, and we had to pay a fee. So I I want to be able to have my children to be able to do the things they want to do and not have that fear of what if I fail. I want them to be able to
Right.
see, I can do whatever I want to do. Like I've never had any, like, what is that Blue says in Jay's song, never had a ceiling in my whole life. Like I want my
Yes.
kid to never know what a ceiling is for them. Like what? If I want
That
to do this,
is,
then I'm gonna do it because I can.
listen, I just a word of caution, right? So I have all the girls, yeah, right? I have all the girls. So I have my older two and then I have my younger two. My 13-year-old, um, we were having a conversation the other day about, she's thinking about getting into real estate at 13, 14. And she's
Wow.
like, this is what I want to do. And then I had Denise Williams on, who owns a brokerage in Atlanta. She's like the youngest Black woman to own a brokerage. And so we're talking, and she's like, Dad, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it on like $300,000 a year. Like that's poor. And I'm like, wait, what?
They're like 300K is poor since I grew up in a household that made 30K.
Straight up, like I had to tell her, and and here's the coldest part about it. And I'm going to take a little bit of credit and beat myself up because my wife and I have done such a good job at painting a vision for her and letting her be that spoiled kid, both of the younger two, right? Be those spoiled kids because now we have a certain level of things that her vision is like 300 grand. What? It's a whole 365 days. You telling me that I
I'm
only
gonna have a
made,
thousand a day.
yeah. So she's like, I'm having 1,000 a day. Literally how she said it. And then the flip side is, okay, good job. She gets it.
Right, right.
She gets it. So a word of caution, like they can point and get, but I'm telling you, it gets out of control. Um, and then my older two, right? So the last couple of months, they've been waking up every morning. They're like, Dad, that stock you told me was good look. My money made money while I was asleep. So
Oh,
it's yeah, I love that you said it that way. You want them to be able to grow up, have that grounding, right? But I think that if we accelerate the starting point that they have, then we can pass that baton, and it looks a little better.
absolutely.
So we're getting ready to wrap up because again, I am so grateful that you carved out some time. Um, and I don't want to, step on that, mess up my whole relationship that I've had with you for 10, 12 years. Um, in the world of personal growth, what does Amber do? Who is Amber reading so that she can stay at the top of the pecking order, top of the food chain, the apex predator? What does Amber do?
So, what does Amber do? Amber has a very strong morning routine. I mean, ironclad. So people will say like, "Oh, well, what book did you read?" Or what that. I don't. I'm gonna be real. I don't read books as often as they say CEOs do. And
Okay.
I can honestly tell you, I have billionaire mentors. They don't read books as often as they say entrepreneurs do either. They're
I
like,
love
who
it.
has time to read these books? Everybody's talking about like, oh, they read 50 books a year. That's a book a week. It's
Right.
so much.
Right.
But I have a very strong morning routine.
Okay.
And that morning routine is a catalyst for, I would say, a lot of my success now. But I also, when I read, when I have time to sit down and read, I'm reading 10K reports, SEC 10K reports. So looking at the publicly traded companies, what did they say that they spent money on last year? What did they lose money on last year?
Yes.
What did they invest in? What are their executive team members making? How much did they make in certain products? What did they acquire this year? It's like somewhere between like 100 and 120 page report. So that's
Okay.
like what I read for fun because that's like
She said for fun.
ultimate nerdiness. But that's what I read for fun. I just finished reading United Healthcare 10K SEC report.
Oh, okay.
So for me that's fun. That's a good time. And yeah, that's what I do. And I think it helps me because it helps me understand like what are some areas of opportunity that I'm not even seeing. When I first read Disney's report and I realized their real estate portfolio was insane, I was
Yes.
like, we gotta up our real
Yes.
estate game. Like we gotta expand. We've got to get more. So yeah, it's been interesting, but that's really what I read. And then occasionally I'll read a book here or there for friends, like, oh, this book was really great. But you've got to get a really great recommendation from someone I know for me to like pick up a book and sit and read it. And that's
Yeah.
always kind of been the case for me, business wise, is that I'd rather read a 10K report or rather read, a new CEO's contract. Like if you just read the Walgreens new CEO, her contract is amazing. I
Yes.
scoured over it. Like I just,
The
I
fact
love
that
things
they're
like that.
public is crazy, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
the fact that you can have access to it. I love that you're intentional about that though,
yeah.
because you're reading it, but it's also motivation for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. For me, it's motivation, but it's also like just training for me. For me, like these contracts and these reports and these number filings, these are all like mini training classes for me that I soak up, and then I share it with my chief business development officer, and then he reads it, and then we're like, okay, what did we glean from this? Like, for me,
Wow.
that's our book club.
She said that's our book club. So now we're going to go off on this little tangent right quick, but the IPOs that are coming up, you got
Mhm.
Coinbase, you got Robinhood, you got a couple of other cannabis companies that are coming up. What is the investment outlook? We're not giving any advice, guys. We are not. Don't trade on what we're saying. But are you looking forward to any recovering investments, any recovering stocks, or any IPOs? Are you looking forward to any?
You know, I would tell you no, simply because that's just not my lane. Like, I
Gotcha.
will read an SEC report simply to learn what the business is doing.
Okay.
But in terms of like the stocks and which ones are doing well and whatnot, I mean, I can tell you based on their SEC reports how well they're doing, how I would predict it. But,
Yeah.
the stock market is so volatile that it's just not my jam. I just literally give my money to my trusted advisor and I'm like, you got this, girl.
I believe in you.
I believe in you. You got this. I've got Bitcoin because I bought Bitcoin like, gosh, years ago.
Yeah,
And
you got me on
right,
that. See, listen, I'm gonna have to cut you a check soon because
right.
between
When's
Instagram
my
and Bitcoin,
payout?
right? Wow, 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 wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, so uh rapid fire round, last couple of questions. I'm gonna give you three words. You tell me what these words mean to you.
Oh, okay.
Ready? First word is vision. What does the word vision mean for Amber Aziza?
Oh, the ability to grow and scale the business based on how I see it best succeeding.
Okay. Okay. Um, Second word is belief.
Um, Beliefs are BS, because data is really the only thing that matters. Doesn't matter what you believe. It matters what data says.
Mm. I've never, yes, this is the Amber anti.
Right.
It
Screw
only
your belief.
matters what data says.
Yeah,
Tell me about that.
I'll occasionally coach business clients. So I used to do business coaching back in the day, and I just, my heart wasn't fully into it as much as I love the corporate side of things.
Okay.
Um, and so, but I'll still take a handful of clients at a time. And when I'm having a call with them initially, you know, I tell them, I don't care like what your hopes and dreams are or what you believe you can or cannot do. I will only care about what the data tells me you can or cannot do.
Yes.
So like pull out the data, pull out the sheets, pull out your P&L, let me see the data that tells me what you are able or not able to do. Because at
Yes.
the end of the day, you cannot believe in yourself, but if you have the data that backs up that what you're about to sell is going to work, then you don't need to believe in yourself. You need somebody on your team who can believe in you for you and push it
Wow.
through. So, belief is important on an emotional level. I say that in case my therapist hears this.
That's so
Belief
funny.
is important. But at the end of the day, data is going to tell me more than your belief system will tell me.
Execution or execution or I can't even figure out the way I want to pose this question. So we'll go execution versus vision. Which one's more
Execution,
important? Okay.
execution all day, every day execution. Because, your vision can be trash. But again, you don't need to necessarily have your own vision. Like somebody else can come in and
Yes.
say, this is the vision that you should have. You should do it. When most people hire coaches, let's be real. That's what they're looking for when they hire a business coach, is for somebody to tell them that the vision you have is correct, or no, it's not correct. Here's the vision you should be having. But really what you need help with is the execution to actually get it done. You can have vision, but if you don't execute, then it's just a pretty picture in your head.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. My father used to tell me, not a very religious man, and everybody, all the visionaries that are listening to this, they know this story. But my father used to tell me, no miracle in the Bible has ever happened without somebody doing something.
Mm.
And it took me forever to get that. Like, he's ex-military, so of course when he was, disciplining me and all the and making me do push-ups upside down and making me wash the car in the morning and like all these things that he would do, it took me forever to figure that out. And then when I went through the bankruptcy, the repossession, and the foreclosure, I'll never forget, I sat down, I was like, Pops, I have failed at everything. He was like, okay, and I'm like, what do you mean and? Like, life is over, I've lost it all, right? And he said, so what are you going to do? Because you
Mm-hmm.
can pray and you can
Right.
believe. What are you going to do? And I was like, huh. And so that's what got me, like that conversation got me back into the hustling and the working and the sales and the execution. So my question to Amber Aziza, next 5 years, what is Amber going to do?
The next 5 years, Amber is going to expand us into another, hopefully 15 countries. And our
Oh,
goal is that in the next 5 years, Amber will retire and become chairwoman of the board and allow our CBO to step in as CEO. We have the whole succession plan ready to go, locked and loaded. So that's
yes.
the plan in the next 5 years. Now we'll see if I let go. If that actually happens. I'll be holding on to it. No.
It's my baby. It's the baby. So are you going to be able to do that and keep the Instagram stories as bomb as they are? Like,
Listen, I think they'll probably be even better because by then, hopefully, I'll have a little one. It'll just turn into one of those parent pages. When entrepreneurs have
oh my
kids and
God,
then
yes.
suddenly, like, their whole life is about the kid and like all their videos are about the kid. And it's like, my kid just started a business. And it's like, your kid can't talk.
You're going to turn into LLC baby parent Twitter. Like,
Right, I will. Right. I'll use mompreneurs as a word every time. Like,
oh
yeah,
my
no, I'll
gosh.
become that person. It'll be great.
That is so funny. That is, well, listen, as if we've learned anything, we've learned there's a market for it.
Right.
because us older parents are like, yeah, whatever, baby's cute. Just yeah. All right. So, all right, we are going to close out. You're in a room or you're on a virtual Zoom, 30,000 people. Amber, what is the one thing you want them to walk away with knowing about life and about business?
Oh, you don't know what you don't know until you find it out. So constantly be in a space to want to learn more. Don't ever think that you're an expert at that penthouse level, because that building somehow just gets taller and taller every time you go up a floor. So be okay with that and be okay with the space that you're at, but understand that there's more to learn always.
If anyone dares to follow you, where can they find Amber Aziza online?
Yes, you can find me everywhere at Amber_Aziza. I'm on IG, I'm on Facebook. I'm not as active on Twitter, but I'm on Twitter. Um, I don't do, the TikTok with the kids. But
The ticks and the talks.
I don't do the ticks and the talks. I don't do any of that, but I'm pretty heavy on IG and Facebook. And you can also find me on LinkedIn.
Yes, awesome, awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been rocking with the great one, Amber Aziza, on the Hawk Vision podcast. I am your host, Chuck Hawkins. Listen, we are going to help you shorten the learning curve. We will either see you at the top or from the top. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. There's some other visionaries just like you. They need this information too. Thank you, Amber.
Thanks.